We won't continue down that path because we probably will get cancelled. What are we going to talk about today, mate? What's the huge audience going to get from us today?
I don't know. Well, I went in because obviously this is the third effort we've had at getting through the questions that you put there. We're still struggling to get into them, but I had a look at them.
Are we gonna touch on our favourite Benji moments?
I think we'll see.
We're going to leave the audience hanging.
It would be funny to get like 8 or 9 episodes out and still not have said anything.
Yeah.
I don't mind him as the Tigers coach. I think he could actually bring some quality to that club.
He is the Tigers.
Yeah. But like him, he's got... I'm not the biggest fan of Robbie Farah for a few, like not just as a player, but like personal reasons. But I think that staff of like him and Robbie Farah, Johnny Morris, probably get a bit out of that team.
Yeah.
I mean, I wrote some notes about what have I changed my mind about. That was a big one. I like that one because...
That was one thing I wanted to talk about was what do you change your mind about and what advice would you have for yourself starting out? Because that's essentially what we do as a job,
Yeah.
That's literally, we give advice on the things that we have educated ourselves on with health and fitness, and ideally we want people to start in a better position. And I think that's quite a cool topic because that can be, cover a lot of things and also have actionable information for the huge audience out there.
Yeah.
So let's get stuck into what do you change your mind about?
I guess like the first thing is in this current version of me, I like to be fairly fluid in terms of my
gender.
Yeah, it's bouncing around all the time. I was going to say something, but I won't. But in terms of like my thinking about things, like I like to be proven wrong because I like to think if there's a better way of doing something or approaching something, then I'd probably like to hear it. So like always changing. I think
very, very mature of you there, mate.
I'm trying my best.
That was one thing I was thinking about this week, and I've come up quite a lot recently with just some things I'm trying to do with my business, and inevitably you try new things, you're not going to be the best at it, and there's going to be frustrations when you're trying it. And I guess it's good to put it into, it's very much the same as a client starting out and they're trying really hard. They might not be executing everything 100% of the time and then probably not seeing the results. And, we probably don't see it so much with exercise ourselves because we've had past success with it, but obviously clients, that's a thing. Yeah. That's the reason why we have a job.
Yeah.
But kind of what you're saying, like being okay with being proven wrong or learning, because you're going to not be good at things straight up and you can't be good at it without lots of practice.
Yeah. And typically like the first thing that you learn is probably not going to be the best or like the most knowledgeable. I mean, is there even a best of anything? That's probably one of the things that did change my mind about.
Yeah, well, squat is the best.
It's the best exercise. Yeah. It probably actually touched on that. So one of the probably like the influences in that kind of like thinking was Luke Lehman, who we both know, who is the owner and founder of Muscle Nerds Education, which is like, I think he's got such a like he's an educator about training and nutrition and stuff like that, and I think he's got such an amazing knowledge base that he's a really good person to listen to. But I did his nutrition course. One of the things he said is when it comes to nutrition, like you just can't be dogmatic at all. You have to be open to everything because realistically the best nutrition protocol is the one that's going to work for the person. And if you enter a situation with this is how I think nutrition should be done, and then it doesn't work with someone, that person's probably going to get some negative results and you could potentially do some harm to them. Whereas if you can go like, what does this person need in this moment? Like what is going to benefit them the most? That's where you'll probably find you get the best results because you're not sticking to something specific. You're educating yourself on a lot and then using what the right thing in the right moment is. So probably like I used to be just like everyone should be eating their carbs, like high carb diet, blah, 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 blah. And that was because I was doing a lot of endurance training. And when you do endurance training, you need to eat a lot of carbs because you need energy. And then getting more into like coaching, you know, more and more Gen Pop type people and understanding their nutrition better and their health better, I was like, oh, yeah, you can't do that. Because there are some people, like I've had a couple, and I've got a couple clients that are like, you know, pre-diabetic or insulin resistant. And it's like, if I go and tell them to be like, you know, just have cereal, it's fine, or, you know, any kind of like high GI sugar, it's going to end really badly for them. And in that case, probably something that is more towards like a keto-esque or low-carb-esque is the best thing for them. So yeah, definitely nutrition has been one of the things, and it was that influence from Luke that allows me to kind of like take a second and think a little bit more about, you know, especially if someone comes to me and says, hey, I've been advised to do this. If it goes against the thing that I think and I tell them, no, don't do that when it's the right thing for them, it's probably going to negatively impact them. But if they go, hey, I've been told to do this, if I educate myself on it, I understand it, then I can better coach them around it.
And there's a couple things in that. Definitely, you know, it's like it's part of the process of being a coach, and everybody has been in the position of where, you know, you get a little bit of information, so you think you know it all, and then you learn a little bit more information, you realize you know nothing, and that's like a constant process. And we're lucky in our job that is kind of, if you want to be a good coach, it's always going to happen. You're like, oh shit, I didn't know.
And we're kept on our toes, even just in the environment that we work in. We are kept on our toes.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and particularly with nutrition, there's so many ways to do things, but it's like it's the same as training. There's so many different ways to do things with training as well too. There's overarching principles and concepts, you know, like we do know that when it comes to, okay, well, if a client needs to lose body fat, they need to be in a calorie deficit. That won't happen otherwise. But how does that client manage that calorie deficit? You know, if they're, like you said, if they're pre-diabetic, and you're telling them to eat a boatload of carbs, and then their insulin goes through the roof, and then their brain function is all over the place. And, you know, I've got a client he has ADHD, and he wants to work on a little bit more of a keto diet because he notices his cognitive function is a lot better when he's on a higher fat diet. Yeah. So I was like, that's fine, we can do that. We're just going to manage your macros, because that's, at the end of the day, that's what it is. It's managing macronutrients in and out. Yeah. Obviously, we know the habits and all those sorts of things. But I was like, in this instance, we know if you want to do your training may suffer a little bit, but also on the flip side of it, I say training may suffer a little bit because we know predominantly if you are doing strength training and high intensity exercise, the main source of fuel will be carbohydrates, as you touched on with your triathlon. You're going to be mainly using carbohydrates, but you know, you might see a bit of a dip in energy, but if you have better cognitive function, you'll probably feel better most of the time, which will make you more energetic and make you want to train more.
Exactly, yeah.
But for me, who I train at high volume, if I go high fat, low carb, I will just feel like shit because I need the carbohydrates.
Yeah.
And that's it. It's context and critical thinking makes a big, big difference.
Yeah, one of the things we were having a chat about this a while back. I think it was during a conditioning session, so whether or not it was actually good quality chat or low cognitive function chat.
Always good quality chat.
But we were talking, it
would have been better quality chat because all the cognitive function, because we would have had lots of adrenaline running around and would have been like, you know.
Maybe.
Or we were talking shit.
I think we were talking, we were talking about kind of like exercise selection and how it's, you know, all over Instagram these days, you see someone being like, this is the best way to like, this study shows that doing the movement in this angle gives the highest hypertrophic response over an 8-week training program, whatever. But how like realistically a chest supported row may not be the like best way to build your back if like all things being like equal, but chest supported row, you need some way to support your chest and some weights. Like that's all you need. And
row until your fucking arms fall off.
Yeah, and it's like if you can actually do the movement in like repeatedly in the same circumstances, you know that like 9 times out of 10 when you walk into the gym, there will be some way to support your chest and some weights to row. You're more likely to actually build muscle on your back than if you need the right bench, the right cable, the right handle, and you need space to do it, and you need a superset and It's too busy. It's 6 p. Like at whatever time you normally come in. So it's like ultimately the thing that you can do repeatedly is what's going to deliver the best results.
Yeah.
Which
and that carries over to the diet as well too.
Yeah.
You know, if you put that, you know, it goes all full circle. If you have that client who needs to eat a lower carbohydrate intake because of XYZ, you know, my instance, the client with he noticed cognitive function, your client with is pre-diabetic, it's probably the best thing that he might be not avoiding carbs altogether.
Lower GI as well.
Yeah, and it's all relative to output as well too. You know, super basic analogy for a lot of people. If you have a fuel tank in a car, it has 50 litres in it, you put 60 in there, you're going to get an overflow. Yes, we know that if you have an overflow of calories and carbohydrates, you'll probably gain some fat, but you probably just don't need, you know, that much energy coming in form of that.
Especially if you're going to be sitting down.
That's the thing. So a lower carbohydrate might be good. And I think that's one thing, like a bit of a pet peeve. It's honestly probably why I stayed away from coaching nutrition and doing content on nutrition for a long period of time, because there was a period in the industry where it was just like calorie deficit, eat as many carbs as you want. That's it.
Yeah.
You're a dickhead if you think anything else.
Yeah. Doesn't matter if what you do, as long as it's a calorie deficit, you'll be okay.
Yeah. Why would you ever consider eating? Why would you consider anything else?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
Yes, it does work.
It does work. But I come from a standpoint of, and I've made mistakes with it before, but I've done a lot of nutrition education before. And, you know, but for me, I come from the standpoint of I have had some food intolerances, not allergies, but I have harder time digesting dairy. I have had a harder time digesting gluten. No, I have not done.
Poor man.
Yeah. But also, if I just go calorie deficit and then I eat it and then my joints feel like shit and then I have skin irritation because I'm eating these foods that are giving me adverse digestion.
Really inflamed.
Get really, really inflamed. I get injured and I was like, oh, just calorie deficit, calorie deficit, calorie deficit. And then all of a sudden I end up being a celiac because just calorie deficit.
Yeah.
That's kind of fucking stupid, yeah.
Kind of just, yeah. And it's a similar thing. Like if you're, for instance, if you're someone who has who is has a bit of extra body fat, bit too much probably, and part of the reason is you have high blood sugar, and because you're a little bit insulin resistant, like you're not quite like pre-diabetic, you're not quite diabetes, haven't been diagnosed yet. There's also something else, like from a health perspective, you become the type 2 diabetic the minute your like blood sugar levels go over a certain amount. It's a weird way that they do it. It's not like you're almost there, so we're going to treat you as if you were a diabetic. They're like, we're not going to treat you as if you're a diabetic until you're a diabetic.
Same with gluten intolerance as well too. You until you've got 100% of your villi and your stomach lining gone, you're not a celiac.
Yeah.
So if you had 98% of them gone, you're really fucking sick when you eat gluten, but calorie deficit. Yeah.
So it's a weird way to do it. But like if you're in that position and I say calorie deficit, eat your protein, but have as many carbs as you want, right? Not only does that person not get enough fats, so their hormone production is down. What is insulin? It's a hormone.
Yeah.
But because they're eating so much sugar, their blood sugar just goes up and up and up. And then like overall, if you're in a calorie deficit, you'll be okay. But how hard is it to be in a calorie deficit when you've got high blood sugar and it just constantly like drops after you've eaten, after a certain time after a meal, and you get hungry again. So it's like, it's not just the specific science of it, but it's like, how easy is it for this person to maintain? Even recently, like intermittent fasting, I was always like, it's dumb. Like, because I don't want to spend a long time not eating food because I like to eat food. Yeah. It's just part of me. But if I tell someone to be in a calorie deficit and it's not working, and then I go, don't eat breakfast anymore, and all of a sudden they cut a whole meal out, then yes, it's good.
Yes.
It worked. Yeah. Therefore, it's good.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's just understanding, you know, there's so many different ways to do a lot of different things. Again, understanding the overarching principles and concepts will make a big difference. And then it allows you to use different tools for different times. For me, for instance, when I'm cutting, I will do a somewhat of a time-restricted eating, I should say, time-restricting eating, when I had Luciano on here a couple of weeks ago, and he was like, it's time-restricted eating, not fasting, because if you're fasting, you should only be having water, and then some people think you should only be having nothing. But so technicality.
I've heard of someone doing a fast where they didn't drink water, but they didn't even let water touch their skin. Like, why?
They need to be offended, and they are retarded.
You're going to be angry and stinky for, for a couple of days a week.
But that's the thing, that's things getting taken out of context, But so like when I do a cut, I know for me, when I am low on calories, I like to not eat super frequently, so that when I do eat, I have a big meal for breakfast that's really, really high in protein. And then I'm sweet. I can go for 6 to 8 hours without eating and be fine and still train kind of normal, because I know that when I can train normal and then I'm fine. And then I have a big meal for dinner and I'm like, oh, cool, I'm eating a heap of food. And then can get really lean doing that.
Really easily. Yeah.
But for someone else, not
doesn't work as well.
Way to go about it. 5 meals a day, whatever it might be.
Yeah. I'm definitely a higher frequency.
Yeah.
And that's what works for me. And I like in the past, I have also done time restricted. I've had woken up, had gone to do coaching, had like a protein shake or a protein yogurt or a protein bar. So something with protein in it. Yeah. Just to keep me have a bit of energy in there, and maybe some fruit. And then I'll have a real big lunch, and we're talking high fat, high carb, high protein, just high everything. Just put it in there, and then I won't need to eat again until dinner. Yeah. And it's just because of that, I'm not snacking, I don't need to put anything else in. And I honestly, I reckon the reason if someone snacks a lot, my recommendation is actually just to eat more meals. Because if they're I snack a lot, but they only eat 2 meals a day. It's well, if you eat 4 meals a day, you're not going to be as hungry. Yeah. And then if you keep snacking, even though you're not hungry, then we can look at other reasons why you're snacking. Yeah. But if you're hungry, you're going to snack. Yeah. And that's the thing. But then if you have some people that don't have an issue with hunger, then it's fine. Good. By the way, if you do want to drop body fat, if you do want to drop weight body fat, you're going to have to be hungry. That's just something you got to agree to. And that's it as well too. You can't expect the change without making any change. Yeah. You're like, oh, I want to get leaner, but I don't want to change anything about what I'm doing. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, you're not going to get leaner. I did a reel about it the other day. If you want to look bigger, you're going to have to drop a substantial amount of body fat and get significant amount smaller, because that's where you need to be to get the look that you want. Yeah. How often, and I know it comes from a place of lack of knowledge, and this is our job to teach people, but how often do you hear people go, I want to, get leaner and also build a lot of muscle mass. Okay, well, your body weight's going to have to go down. Oh no, I want to stay the same body weight. It's not going to happen. Scientifically, that's not happening. It can't happen. Yeah. I want a 3 month. It's okay. I know we've spoken about this with Billy before. It's 3 month. I want a 3 month result. It's okay, well, we'll do 3 months, but just so you know, it's going to take probably 12. Yeah. That's it. Being it for the long haul, because you can do it, but it's hard to get to that point as well. And it takes a lot of sacrifice. And I'm not just talking about being hungry. I'm talking about measuring your food, not missing training, doing your steps. We've both seen Ray, who obviously you've had on here as well, what he's been going through the last few months. And I think he's done real well. And he's obviously someone that's got that kind of level of discipline from being in the army and playing, professional sport. But he's sacrificed a lot. He's not going out boozing, he's not partying, he's not eating everything that he likes to eat. He's just doing what's needed. And that is it at the end of the day. There's inevitable sacrifices if you want to go after anything that you don't have at this current point in time. You want to make a lot of money, you're probably going to have to sacrifice a lot of time and fun to make a lot of money. You want to do a triathlon like you did, how much time and effort and went into that? No social life. And my business was impacted as well. Yeah, but you had to sacrifice those things, otherwise you wouldn't get there. Or if you're just oh, I want to do it, and then you didn't do any of the training, there's unlikely that you would end up having done it. No, and you get to the day and you destroy yourself because you weren't ready. I learned a good quote this week from Alex Hormozy: volume negates luck. Yeah, was a good one. Because the more you do something, and the more, if it's like losing body fat, the more you stack up days in that calorie deficit, smart calorie deficit, the more training sessions you get in, the more likely you're going to get there. It's not luck that it happened. I had a client ask me, I just did a bit of a cut and I lost 10, 12 kilos, and they're I did the post and before and after, wrote out everything that I did, literally everything that I did. Yeah. And he's like, how did you do it? And I was like, I did it. I literally wrote out. Yeah. But how'd you do it? Yeah. There,
That's what
Yeah.
that's what it was. I understand it's challenging, but that's what
That's how, yeah.
that's what it was. And it's like there's going to be a sacrifice at the end of the day.
Yeah. Have you ever read the book Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell?
No, I read one of his. What's his other one?
He's got Blink, David vs. Goliath, and Tipping Point. And then he's got some others, but those are like 4.
I may have listened to one on.
All great quality stuff. I'd recommend, even if you're whoever you are, I recommend like just for sort of like understanding things. It's a good thing to read. He's got makes some really interesting points, but Outliers is like probably his big one, and that's where he came up with the 10,000 hour rule. Have you heard of that rule?
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically like to master anything, you need to commit 10,000 hours to it. So Bill Gates was programming on a computer for 10,000 hours. The Beatles played in nightclubs in Hamburg for 10,000 hours. Like it's like putting in the work, putting in 10,000 hours worth of work is essentially needed to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, if you do 9,999, it's not like you do one more hour and boom, everything happens overnight. But the point is, if you don't focus on the result and you just focus on putting in the work, eventually the work will happen. With that in mind, there is a caveat that like you need some luck. You need a degree of luck.
Yeah, for
like,
sure.
Bill Gates was very, very lucky to be, because when he was in high school, the Parents Association bought a computer for the high school and no one else wanted to use it. So him and his mate that he started Microsoft with, they programmed on that computer for 10,000 hours in high school. Very few people in that time got access to a computer for that long at that time, at that age. So he had a lot of luck there. But if he hadn't done the 10,000 hours, he would not have actually started Microsoft, and probably the world would be a very different place right now. But same thing like the Beatles, like they still got a lot of opportunity. They got a lot of opportunity, but they had to make the most of it. So,
and they were in the position. They only got the opportunities because they were doing the thing to be in the position to get the opportunities.
Yeah, if you're not working and you're not getting the result, and then you go, someone else got an opportunity that I didn't. It's like, okay, but if they were working, then that's why the opportunity came. Or it can be that you got the opportunity as well, but you didn't notice it because you weren't working.
Yeah, and it just like everything takes effort. And I always think, it's not me standing on a pedestal being like, oh, cool,
Put your soapbox away.
Yeah, this is my soapbox, man. This is my soundproof soapbox room. I can say whatever I want in here.
With a picture of yourself in it.
I know.
Like what level of self love, or self-love's not the right word, like the bad version of self-love.
Like self-lust.
Self-lust you have to have a picture of yourself flexing with that look in its eye.
Good forearm though. I've been working on them.
Yeah, well, I mean, wasn't that like years and years of walking to the gym with a squeezy thing in your hand?
Yeah.
And other stuff, of course.
Yeah, just want a strong grip. It's
why would you need a strong grip, Matt?
Why not? Why don't you need a strong grip? Tell me what a weak grip does for you.
Actually, there is a link between greater grip strength and lifespan.
Oh, so I'm going to live forever.
Yeah, I don't know if you would live forever, but you're less likely to fall over if you've got a stronger grip strength. Same thing with lower body strength.
Yeah,
because you're less likely to fall over.
That's why I squat and train forearms.
You've nailed it.
Yeah,
it's like the three best.
That is the secret.
3 best indicators for lifespan are VO2 max, grip strength, and lower body strength.
I better get on that ski and get that VO2 max back up.
Yeah.
The reason for the cardboard cutout, have I told you?
I mean, apart from so people can see how good you look all the time. You don't have to be in the room.
It's so creepy.
It's like the Mona Lisa. It's always looking at you.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter where you go. The eyes are always on you.
It's very odd seeing yourself in almost life-size cardboard cutout. The reason why it's not life-size is because they just didn't have enough cardboard. I'm too big. No, Benny got it for me as a marketing tool. So anybody in the Surrey Hills area, you're probably going to see me.
You should stick it in a window.
More frequently around Surrey Hills now, because he's going to get like a QR code and get business cards and put on it and then take it around.
That's hilarious. I love that. You should stick, like when I was growing up near school, there was someone that had a cardboard cutout of Willie Mason in their like window, but between the blinds and the window, so it was always there.
Yeah.
And it was always looking at you. You go past that street, Willie Mason, and it was when he had the afro as well.
Exceptional.
You should do that there.
Yeah.
So like out like in the window at the gym or something like that. Just walk past and it's you.
Justin would love it.
Get a cardboard cut out of Justin.
Put it next to mine.
Yeah.
Moving on. What else are we going to do? That was a good little bit of chat, mate. But yeah, like I guess like it's good to have. I think it's a big thing as a coach, you know, and we can all get better at it. And everybody has it at a certain point where you get a bit of information and then you realize you learn more information and you need to know more. But having a very broad view of a lot of things, obviously you can't be an expert in everything if you have a broad view, but at least having an understanding and like you said, to recap a bit, you like to be proven wrong. And I guess that comes to open-mindedness, yeah?
Yeah.
And, you know, we all have our own biases. If you're a good coach, you should be able to see that there are differences, and I think it's being open to those discussions. And again, that's the whole point of like the podcast as well, just to have chat about things like that, because then that way, you know, for me, one of the big things that helped me learn when I moved to Sydney was more discussions and more chat around, you know, strength, nutrition, whatever it might be, to get different perspectives and you know, a broader case study of everybody else's clients and what they're doing, and like, oh, I didn't think about that. And I think as a coach, you said, you know, Luke Lehman, he has a very broad view of a lot of things because he's been around for 30 years and studied everything under the sun. So like you ask him a question, he'll have his own biased opinions, but he also gives his opinion based off all the knowledge that he has and can see both sides of it as well.
And it's like, it's a bias, but it's a bias that's come from like filtering. Yeah. It's like experience, like, you know, no one can be 100% objective. That doesn't exist because even if you try to be objective by trying to be objective, you are therefore being subjective. Yeah. But like.
Now we get into the philosophy.
Yeah. Actually, I had an argument with someone about that at uni once. It's like, it can't happen. And she was like, but I'm trying to be objective. I'm like,
but you're still being subjective off your.
It's like, because if you have like your opinion, your bias, and then you try to not go along with that bias, you are therefore being biased against your own bias. Yeah. And she was like, no, like, it's true. Anyway, I'm not going to get too mansplaining. Yeah, like it's like you can't be entirely objective. There is a level of subjectivity that will always exist. But if you can acknowledge that you are being subjective, there is that subjectivity, and you'll be like, look, I could be wrong. This might not be true. This is what I've learned, and this is what I've gathered. Someone else probably has a differing view, but if you know this, you take this and you put it through your own brain, and then you will have opportunities to apply it. And if you apply it correctly, it's probably going to do all right.
It's just don't be a fucking wanker about it.
That's the biggest thing. Yeah, it's funny. Like in a time where we have one of my clients said this to me a couple of weeks ago. He was like, 30 years ago, they thought that as a population we were dumb because of a lack of information, but now they know it's like we have all this information and it's still there. Yeah. It's like you go on Instagram and you'll find someone like telling you that that's the wrong thing to do, or this is the best way to do it, or someone with their dietary protocol in their Instagram name, and you're like, okay, well, you're probably not a good person to listen to, because if you're going to make yourself like you know, Keto Ken or like Carnivore Gary or something like that, chances are you're probably not going to be able to apply any level of objectivity to what you're thinking about. So yeah,
true. I might call myself gluten-free, Matt.
I thought you were going to be a whole like big quads man or something.
Oh, that's what I get called anyway.
Gluten-free
big.
Well, actually, it was your brother that was Quad God.
Yeah.
You're just powerlifting C-bum.
Yeah, so good. I am powerlifting C-bum.
Get that on a shirt.
Such an insult to him.
Yeah, but like such a compliment to you.
It's one of those compliments I can't take.
Yeah,
because I'll have a cardboard cut out of myself, but I will not take that.
Yeah, you won't get to that level.
No. I've got standards.
I'm happy enough to like plaster my own face around the suburb that I work in, but I will post pictures of myself topless on Instagram, but I will not let anyone compare me to Chris Bumstead.
No, because I don't know. It's just unfair for him.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, he works hard. I'm sure he enjoys his life. I think he's doing pretty well for himself. So
yeah, but he shouldn't have.
Successful.
Someone shouldn't try and bring him down and say that I'm the powerlifting version of him.
No one punches down.
Anyway, what advice would you have for yourself starting out, mate?
This is a good one because I was having to think about this the other day because I was actually listening to a podcast that Jimmy Carr was on. He was on the Diary of a CEO, and he asked him like, what advice would you give to like 20-year-old you or something like that? So naturally, putting everything through my own brain, I was like, I'm going to make this about me, and started having to think about it. And I was like, I think like this is a little bit like kind of personal. One of the things I do suffer from is I'm trying to impress people constantly. It's it's just a thing. So I'm always more concerned with other people's opinion about me, well, often than what I am myself. When I seem to be at my best, when I'm doing well, typically I'm more concerned with what I want to do and what my own opinion. And it like obviously there is a level of like, it's like you can't just be like, screw everybody else. I don't care what you say. I'm going to annoy everyone I want. But if you like, it's like when you have the jar and you fill it up with the rocks and the sands and the pebbles. It's like if you start filling up, focusing on like you and what you need and your own opinion, and making sure that you are someone that if you met you would be like, I like this guy. Like he's someone that I'd want to be around. Like if you can be that person for yourself, naturally you're going to start to you're like hold up to other the people that you want to impress. You're going to start to impress them or get noticed by them, or like, and so it's something that because I have a high performance coach, Kira, holistic high performance over in Ireland. One of the big things that she says is like, figure out what your values are, figure out what you value in life, and hold yourself to those values. When you're holding yourself to those values and you're being someone that like you would want to be around, that's when things are going to start to be okay. And like if you can take a good, honest like look at yourself at various times, you'll probably find that when things are better, you're probably being someone that you would want to be around. And when things are not going as good, you're probably not living up to those values. And, if you, at a minimum, you're struggling, like having a bad month or so, and things aren't going your way. And it's like, okay, well, if I can fall back to my values and start living up to them as best as I can, and it's when no one's looking, like, from a nutrition or a training or even just like a picking up rubbish off the ground, very small things that like no one pays attention to. In the gym, putting weights away, other people's weights away, like to keep the place tidy. I think that's a big thing that like as a coach, even though we're not paid specifically to clean up the gym, we're taking pride in the space that we work in. And also apart from that, like a member of the gym, if they walk in and see a coach walk past equipment all over the place or not put their own equipment away, they're probably going to be like, oh, that's just not a thing. I don't have to worry about it here. But if they see you going out of your way to pick other people's stuff up, to put it away that's been left there, that's when they're going to see that. So it's holding yourself accountable to your own values. If you can start to do that, things will start to come together. It's like focusing on that process of holding yourself accountable to your values is probably going to see the results that you want, as opposed to like being someone that just kind of goes through their day trying to go result after result after result, or other person's opinion after other person's opinion, because you can't please everyone. So if you try to please everyone, you're probably going to not please anyone.
And definitely not yourself.
Definitely not yourself. And that's probably the big part.
Yeah. But it's that's a really, really good way to go about it, because it's definitely one of those things that, other people's opinions matter to a certain extent, because if it didn't, no one would do anything. Yeah. No one would train. The world wouldn't function.
Nothing wouldn't.
Yeah, it wouldn't, because then everybody would be
just doing their own thing.
Yeah. And you should do to a certain extent, but there should be, there's a certain thing with training, like aesthetics is a part of training. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's not the only thing.
No one is going to tell you, like if they train in a gym, no one's going to say that they have absolutely zero interest in the way that they look.
Yeah.
It's just, no one's like that.
Yeah, I just want to feel good. Yeah, but you feel good when someone looks at you.
But if you look in the mirror and hate what you see, you're not going to be like, I feel good.
Yeah. And that has a carryover effect. And also, like, it's good to share your wins with people as well too, and other people's perception does matter to a certain extent. But yeah, what you're saying in that your opinion of yourself and staying true to yourself and your values. I like the when no one's looking as well too, because that is a big thing to.
Because realistically, no one is looking.
No,
most of the time.
No one's looking.
Very rarely that you're in front of a person. There's someone that cares enough to call you out on stuff.
Yeah, and or admire that you're doing it. But the reason someone would probably look and admire is because you've stacked up enough for when no one's looking, and then all of a sudden it doesn't become
it's not performative. It's like you just do it because you do it. You're not like someone's looking, I'm gonna put these plates away. You're putting the plates away, and then someone goes, hey, that's pretty cool of you, and you're like,
yeah,
it's not a thing.
That's it, and whatever else that might be, stacking up those repetitions, kind of same thing. Volume negates like. The more you stack up whatever it might be, the better that's going to be. What else you got? What else would you?
Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself.
It's a little Matt Duncan,
but it's actually, I think it's an Epictetus or maybe a Marcus Aurelius. It's one of those Roman dudes.
Same person, Matt Duncan, Marcus Aurelius, aren't they?
You know what? I actually sometimes question whether Matt Duncan is a real human being.
He's on tomorrow. I'll ask him.
Really? Can that be one of the questions? I had that once. We were in a development session. It was like a small group development session, and there was like someone that was definitely annoying. He was annoying the shit out of me, and I wasn't even the target of it. And I was just watching him, and he was just like, just taking it on and just so calm. And afterwards, I was just like, is he real? Like, he is. I had a chat with Danny, his fiance, about it, and she was like, yeah, he's real. Yeah. He's a real human. He just doesn't show it. He's good at not showing it.
He's very, very patient. Did you listen to his one?
I did. I loved it.
It gave a good bit of insight into why he's so patient.
Yeah, like when you learn about like what his background, like what he's been through, but like it's something that he always had. Like that story he told about the job that he had in Darwin when he was like cleaning a factory or something overnight. I asked him about it. I was like, that's like, it's so cool that his mindset approaching that was, I got offered a job, I accept a job, I do job. And then afterwards, the result was like what he was told was like, literally no one else has ever done that. No one has ever like gone, yep, and gotten through it. It's like, that's the definition of doing the right thing when no one's watching.
Yeah, that's it. It's
just what you got told to do. And like, I'm sort of not sure about you, but that was definitely a value that I was raised on, was just like, you just do it. And I can see it in my dad. My dad does it a lot, probably sometimes to his own detriment. Like when he has
there's a lot of good dads out there that do it as well.
Yeah. And it's probably, I've spoken to a couple of clients about it that probably have their dads are similar, or they are similar themselves, where like, if there is a job to do, you do it. Because especially like, 50 years ago in Australia, like you didn't really have much of an option except like, you had to work, and you didn't get to follow your dreams because you had to work. The family needed them. Like, that was just life. And so I think it's pretty cool. I think there's not enough of that around as much anymore. And I think you have to take it with a grain of salt. But I think more people should be like, maybe that's some advice I'd give myself as well. Just if you accept the job, do it.
Yeah. And that goes for what we do as well. Like, even though we work for ourselves, but we've accepted that job.
Yeah.
We do it and turn up and do it. And that's massive. The doing it when no one's watching, because most of the time, no one's watching and no one cares. Like, people kind of care a little bit, but
you see someone, screw that person.
Yeah.
But yeah, the tolerant with yourself and strict with others.
Before we move on, yes, he is. One of my favorite things about Matt Duncan is that when that's what she said. Like, that saying, like, oh, it's so big or whatever, and like that's what she said. Have you ever heard him say it?
Yeah, I think so. Or maybe he put it in a group chat.
He says it all the time.
Yeah, I've actually, I think,
it's so great,
and he's quick as well. Yeah, I'm reasonably quick with saying that's what she said, and he always beats me.
But it's just so funny because you look at Matt and he so serious and a bit like in a professional way, in a good way, and Matt Duncan, and then we'll be in a development and someone will say something, and then you'll just hear Matt up the back where he's standing, like just observing.
Like you don't even realize he's in the room.
Yeah, and he was just like, "That's what she said."
Well, have I told you about the time he punched me on the gym floor?
No. Oh, was it a fist bump? It was a fucked up handshake.
No, it was like, so I was like coaching my client and he kind of like came up next to me, and he's obviously like, he downplays his boxing, but he was a boxer, and I've seen him with the heavy bag. You wouldn't want to be the heavy bag in that situation. Like, he can throw one. And he kind of like came up behind me and went to do like a little like jab on my arm, just a little like, hey, how you doing? Like a little bump. But then he ended up kind of like throwing it harder than he expected. But at the same time, I turned into it. And so he proper like whacked me on the arm, and a mixture of like surprise and also a little bit of pain. I kind of was like, wow. When he was like, just burst out laughing. He's got his client. I've got my client.
He just punched a colleague.
Punched a colleague. And so for like a week afterwards, I just come up and just like give him a sneaky jab in the arm and run off. Good. Yeah.
Yeah, I like how you run off as well.
Oh, so as quick as I possibly can. And it's still not quick enough. If he wanted to get me, he'd get me.
Yeah, I reckon he's pretty fast as well too.
He's definitely got a bit of toe about him.
Okay, so...
Yeah, tolerant with others and strict with yourself or myself.
Yeah. Tell us what you mean by that, mate.
I think it's just... with yourself, it's holding yourself to a standard. So again, all of this is coming back to holding yourself to a standard, to values, like when no one's looking. But I think everyone's going to be on their own level of development, and everyone's got their own shit going on, and everyone's got the focus in their mind. And if you hold yourself to a standard, but if you apply that standard to everyone else, you're going to get disappointed, because not everyone else is going to live up to that standard. It's going to happen. And one of the examples that, and I try to remember this whilst this happens, is like, you know, when you're driving in a car, someone cuts you off or like doesn't indicate or like speeds past you, and like you're in your first like reaction is like, what a dickhead, or like, what an idiot, like putting people in danger, like, or you know, a 13-year-old like driving a ute in a country town paddock, like
brand new Ford territory.
Brand new.
Oh,
Matthew. Yeah. Machine gun Walsh.
Honestly, the most violent thing you can ever experience, I reckon. Well, not the most violent, but
up there.
Fuck me, mate. It's ridiculous.
But yeah, so like, you know, someone cuts you off in traffic and your immediate thought is like, what a dickhead. Like, why would you do that? You don't need to do that. Like, why do you need to take that risk? You know what? Maybe that person is just a very average person and they're just out doing their thing and they don't care how they impact others. Maybe. But like, also, what if that person's running late to a meeting and is really stressed about it because it could be a meeting to buy a house or something, and if they don't make the meeting, they don't get the house, or they might get fired or something, like, or their family member's just been put in hospital or something like that. So there's so much that can be going on outside of like your world that can be impacting them. And when something impacts them, tunnel vision. Like, and I know it because sometimes I'll be late to work and I'll be like doing the whole lane changing, going down when there's a parked car, cutting back in. It happens, like sometimes. But if you can just like, one thing because I do a gratitude journal every day and I journal some other stuff as well, but I kind of repeat isms, like sayings to myself in that as kind of like affirmation-y, but also just like reminders, like keep this on your mind today. So one of them is walk in their shoes. It was just like, look, you're not walking in their shoes, so you don't know what's going on in their life, so you can't set your standard to them. And it just gives, like, when you start doing that, you start reacting negatively to less things. So little things don't actually have as much of an impact on you. Like one of the things, Gary Cleary, who's a member of the Optimized Coach, Gary and I have gotten pretty close. We've done a few things together. Interviewed him on the podcast that I used to do, and he said, because he got diagnosed with testicular cancer like 5 or 6 years ago, and then made like a full recovery. And I was like, how does that experience like impact what's going on now? And he's like, little things don't piss me off anymore. He's like, someone cuts in front of you in traffic, or you're running late to a meeting, who cares? Like, life's going to go on. There's more important things. So I think if you can apply that idea to yourself, but also to other people, like that they're probably going through something. And so just, you know, let them go through their thing. Like, you know, a client rocks up and they said that they'd train 2 times without you that week, or they said that they'd stick to a calorie deficit, or, you know, this, that, the other. And then you go, how'd you go? And they go, I didn't do it. Like, and you're like, well, I can stick to a calorie deficit and train 6 times a week. Why can't you? I can go to bed at the same time every night and wake up. It's like, you got to just give them room. Yeah. Not so much room. You can't just be like, do whatever, because they won't get the result. But you got to understand that that person's going through their own thing and they're not at the same level as you are.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a hard one. It's a constant battle to manage as well too, because like you said, you think we are focused on ourselves as well too.
Yeah.
But also just pausing to be empathetic for other people, and also then grateful for where you're currently at as well too, wherever that may be.
Yeah.
As well. I like that one.
Yeah.
Very Matt Duncan-esque.
Well, he has it. I think I'm not sure he still does, but he has it in his background on his laptop, and that's where I was like, it's the Matt Duncan quote.
Yeah, the one I like is because you're a Ryan Holiday fan. Yeah, he's got this video, and it was from I think I started watching it in like 2020. I've got it saved on my YouTube as just like a saved video that you can save from someone else, and it's just like 3 stoic things, and it's along the same lines, 3 stoic values or whatever, and it's more fatty, so love fate, so whatever it is, just love it, or accept it and go with it because that's happened. Then control how you play the game.
Yeah.
So you can't control the person cutting you off in traffic, control how you play the game. And it's kind of along the same
control
line.
how you react.
Control how you react, control, it doesn't matter what he's giving it as a speech to the Cleveland Browns, I think he talked about, and so a sports team, and he's like, you can't control what your teammate does, you can't control what your coach does, you can't control what the ref does, you can't control it, you can control how you play the game. So same thing, you can't control what your clients do, but we can only do the best that we can to assist them, and we be good if we can control them a little bit more and they get better results, but that's okay.
But then there'd be no challenge.
There'd be no challenge. I'd like a little bit less challenge with this. And then the other ones is memento mori. It doesn't matter, you're going to die.
Yeah.
So, it's
all good.
You can hold so much weight in it. It's interesting, and it's not like it's interesting to observe people get really upset about those sorts of things. And again, it's not like a high horse thing. It's just interesting to observe how people that might ruin someone's day getting cut off in traffic.
And usually it comes from a lack of control elsewhere.
Yeah.
And full disclosure, that's happening to me more than I'd like it to happen at the moment, which is telling me that like there's something that I could be like working on to improve that. But having the awareness
to realize that is a big thing as well too. I think a lot of times people aren't super aware of what's going on. And again, we work in an industry and an environment where a lot of people are more self-aware.
Yeah.
And I think we're hyper aware of things potentially, and we're also ignorant to some things, but hyper aware to it because we see with the people that we work with.
We deal with it every day. Yeah. And you get so many different like points of view and stories and versions of things that like even like just you might have someone in the gym that's like they're trying to do something and they get in the way of someone else, and then there's a conflict and you only hear one side of it and someone's complaining to you about their side of it and you're like, I saw it and that definitely could be handled better.
It's a paradigm shift. Have you read 7 Habits of Highly Effective People?
No, that's on the book list.
Yeah, I've got it. I need to get stuck into it. I need to get back reading a bit more. But he talks about, I might read tonight. He talks about a paradigm shift, and it's just like I read it. I've read it a couple of times. The particular passage. I always think of the paradigm shift from the OC. Matt always has in everyone in his training. So the paradigm shift is
change the way you view something.
Change the way you view something, change the way you think. And I guess it's very much the be tolerant with others concept. He uses an example. He was on a subway train and, he's sitting down, it's full of people. This guy comes in with 2 or 3 kids and he looks a bit kind of not present, let's say, and the kids are just bouncing off the walls and annoying everybody, and the dad's just sitting there just blank faced, unaware of what his kids are doing, and he's like, excuse me mate, can you sort your kids out? And he's like, oh sorry, my wife just died at the hospital, kids come over here, and he's like, then I had a paradigm shift of like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Like you don't know what's going on.
You never know what's going on with someone else.
And yeah, but again, because we're usually quite self-absorbed, it's a hard thing to be.
Very hard.
In that.
Yeah. Usually like if something, when you have someone like react in a way that is unexpected, like the level of reaction that occurs. So like an example is I had a client once who they'd cancelled a session like really late, like at like 2:30 a.m. for a 6 a.m. session. And the previous session they'd said something about like there might be they almost half-heartedly, half-jokingly said that there might be like an issue with someone they worked with or something like that. Cancel a session at like 2:30 in the morning for a 6 a.m. Okay, both of those are like pretty, like you put 2 and 2 together, you're going to get 4. And then the next session, he rocked up and I saw him on the way in and I nodded to him as I was walking in the door, looked to my left, saw him coming, nodded to him, walked in, went to my locker, put all my stuff away, and then I couldn't find him anywhere in the gym. I was like, where's he gone? Blah, blah, blah. So I texted him. I was like, sorry, like, did we get the session wrong? Like, blah, blah, blah. And then he reacted like, what you just did was really rude. Like, I've never been treated like that, but explosively reacted. I was like, okay, this is not about me. This is something else. So then, reported it to Jules, who was the PTM at the time, and eventually like an email came in and it wasn't like a scathing attack on me, but it was a level of disappointment in saying he doesn't want to be my client anymore. I was like, all right, cool, moved on. Months and months later, because he ended up training with a different coach, months and months later, he comes up to me in the gym and goes, I am so sorry. When that happened, it was something completely not to do with you. And I felt in such a bad state that when I saw you, it all just came out. And I was like, it's all good. It's fine. Like, it was so long ago that there's no impact. There was no negative impact for me. Nothing actually came of it. But what it did, like, it was just a reminder that it was like, that wasn't about me. Mm-hmm. And I could tell because the reaction was so, like, not at the level that for what I was like, was I rude to him? Like, I was questioning myself, was I rude to him? No, like, maybe. I actually did make a change. I made an effort to be to the gym a lot earlier so that I could be have more of me present when I walked in. But by the same token, it was like the reaction did not was not at the level of what occurred. So it's like, okay, this isn't about me. And if I then go on the attack on him and be negative towards him, it's just we're all going to end up in a worse spot. It's just a chain keeps building up. But if I just be a little bit tolerant and go, hey, that probably wasn't about me. Not the nicest thing for him to have done, but he's probably got some shit on his plate. I'll leave him to it. It doesn't need to be talked about. And sure enough, I was right. So like, I try to apply similar kind of logic to whenever a reaction seems unnecessary. And I'll even discuss it with people. Like, hey, like this happened. Like, what do you think? Like, was I in the wrong? Like, blah blah blah. And if you start questioning whether or not you were in the wrong, you'll probably find that most of the time you're not. But there's always something that you can improve.
Yeah, for sure. That's a big one. And that like it's a cool thing that you took that away from it. Particularly with I value that with PT turning up. One pet hate is people turn up late, and particularly as PTs, I think we should be in there. But also, like I'm not in the gym super early now, relative to where I was before because I come up here, but I'm at work.
Yeah.
Earlier than that, and so you can be more present when people come in, and I get up much earlier than
you have to.
Than I have to, so I can be switched on. But that's it. Yeah. That's it. It's like, what can you take away from that? And it comes back to that point that you said at the start of the show with being open. Like the theme, I guess, was being more open-minded and where you can actually get better at it, better from something, and what can you learn? Because that's the whole goal. Yeah, that's what we. Yeah,
exactly.
As human beings, we probably should be trying to. No, well, not should be. There's no shoulds, but it's a good thing to be able to take a lesson from something, and get better, or just be aware and acknowledge if you don't want to get better. That's okay as well.
Yeah. Cool. You don't have to get better at everything, and if you're constantly trying to get better at everything, you're probably not going to be particularly happy. But because you're not good, you're never going to be good enough. Is the kind of thing. But if you can. I want to get better at that. I probably wasn't the best in that moment. I could probably change how I approach that situation. Even helps like in any relationship, whether it's like a business one or just like your mates or your partner or your family. It's like, okay, I probably could have even if I could have communicated better there, or I could have been more upfront with my feelings in that moment, or it could just be, hey, I probably could have taken a second and understand where they were at, or I could probably be a bit more proactive in how I approach that situation.
It's a complex existence we have.
We have, and I'm not perfect. I get it wrong a lot.
Oh fuck! I thought you were perfect.
For a moment there, I thought I would too, but I'm not. Apparently, who would have known? Who would have guessed it? But yeah, I think, and just being comfortable with being wrong is what I said earlier as well.
Yeah.
Whether it's about a topic or just in a moment.
Yeah, and just seeing something for what it is and being able to get better. I have had, we've chatted before on the couple that we've done with when it comes to injuries. My approach to those things is it's a process or an opportunity to get better. And now it's funny because I've had that approach for a long period of time because I guess I'm a bit stubborn in that I'm not going to stop doing the thing that training or whatever it might be. But realizing that now more in business as well too, of like the frustration of like having a frustration is very much like having an injury. Yeah. Something that's standing in your way. It's the classic, like the obstacle is the way, what's the...
Read your Ryan Holiday.
Yeah. What stands in the way becomes the way. The impediment to action advances action.
Yeah. Well, there's actually in one of the other Malcolm Gladwell books I mentioned, David versus Goliath. It's about reimagining scenarios and saying that instead of someone being successful in spite of something, they have something that will negatively impact their ability. One of the examples he gives is there's some really high amount of there's a large proportion of overachievers that come from a single parent family compared to single parent versus dual parent families, and it was obviously having a single being in part of a single parent family is probably overall going to be a bit of a negative impact on your overall success. Not that it's worse, and sometimes it might be better, but overall statistically it's probably going to be a negative impact on your success. But because there's this disproportionate amount of people that are successful that come from single parent families, it's okay, well, what's making them successful? It's because they were in a single parent family, they had to work harder. They had to be there for their family as well as becoming successful. And so he kind of looks into a few different kind of case studies of stories of how people were successful, not in spite of their issue. It's not they were, another one he gives is people who are, what's the thing when you can't read? Dyslexic. There's some as well, people who are dyslexic that are successful. In theory, being dyslexic should be make it harder, but they're not dyslexic. They're not successful because they managed to overcome their dyslexia. The overcoming of their dyslexia is what made them successful.
Yeah,
the actual process of doing it is what created the person that they are.
It's the pursuit of the. It's human nature. Yeah, I guess in one way we're inherently lazy, but then also one way we're inherently ambitious, and it's that constant battle between the two. Yeah. That for me, I'm dyslexic, but I don't know if it's been. Like I was saying to you at the start with the concussions, I don't know if it's been exaggerated from the amount of concussions that I've had, but it hasn't been a thing. It hasn't been something that stopped me. It may have been a barrier to entry, but I would say not. I probably read more than the average person who is not dyslexic because of it being a pursuit of overcoming it and not being not letting it be a limiting factor. I've persisted with it enough to then become more well-read.
Exactly, yeah.
And I actually think that in some way, shape or form, it's been something that has helped me because of the way that I consume information. I don't think it's the same as someone else, and does that mean that every person consumes information the same that doesn't have dyslexia? But I think that it's there is an evolutionary thing with dyslexia. it was there before people read.
Yeah.
It's a way of thinking, I think.
Yeah.
And how there's a need for it at some point.
Yeah.
You know, because it's a different way of thinking. I don't know. It's just a way that I conceptualize things.
Yeah. Well, it's almost like if you so the way that Malcolm Gladwell puts it in the book, he calls it David versus Goliath. So his whole point is that like in the battle of David versus Goliath, it's almost like someone who like David is the person that shouldn't win. Goliath is the person that should win. But if you look at it kind of like more logically, Goliath in that time to be the size that he was probably had some form of disability
And steroids.
Yeah, he had that
Goliath was the first
1200 BC
fake natty.
1200 BC Clan and Trent.
Yeah.
he was running it. He probably had some form of disability which would have impacted his ability to move. So in a battle where people are in front of him, he's probably in a pretty good spot to just smack people out of the way. But in a 1v1 in a large expanse, it's actually a disadvantage. On top of that, he was wearing a whole heap of armor to make him be able to resist like hits when he's in a battle. But if he's wearing all this like heavy armor, then he's not going to be able to move around very well. And he was also wearing a helmet, so he couldn't see very well. So he is that is actually in a 1 versus 1 fight. It's actually all of those things are a disadvantage despite his size. Conversely, David was like a shepherd who used a sling. If he's a shepherd that used a sling, what he practices using his sling on are like foxes. So things that are moving incredibly quick are very small. But he got really good at. He obviously would have been good at hitting them with his sling, and then so he could hit someone, hit a small moving object from a distance with his sling. So in a 1v1 situation, he never needs to get close enough to Goliath for Goliath to actually have any sort of an impact on him. Goliath's he's not quick. He's actually very slow, can't move well at all, not agile, can't see very well, and can only really hit people within his arm distance.
Bit of a gimp.
David's be as like, you know, a certain distance away, can hit him really, really easily and can just like smack him until things pop up. So realistically, anything that we think makes like Goliath the more likely victor actually makes him the more likely loser, and everything that we think makes David the most likely loser actually makes him the more likely winner. So that's the theory, and he applies it to heaps of things. Like from a sleep perspective, like we obviously have like I forget the exact name, but it's like some people are morning people, some people are like night people. Chronotypes, that's the one. So there's the morning people, there's the evening people. The reason we have
few clients use it as an excuse for not going to bed.
Yeah, I think most people aren't actual like night people.
They're not to go to their sleep at fucking 3 o'clock in the morning. It's more like 12 or whatever. And get up at 7 as opposed to go to bed at 3 and get up at 10.
The whole point of having that is so that like, you know, from an evolutionary perspective, like if we're all, you know, we're in a camp and we need people to guard the camp, if everyone's sleeping at the same time, the camp's going to be completely like unprotected for a period of time. So some people need to be awake at a certain time. But some people use that to their benefit, like because they choose not to fit into like the societal way of like we're all up at, you know, 7 a.m. and then we all go to bed at 10 p.m. or whatever it is. Because they're up at times when no one else is awake, they can do jobs that you have to be awake at that time for. And because they can do those jobs, they can be successful at it. And they're not successful because in spite of their chronotype. It's not like they were like, I'm tired all the time, but I'm still going to work. It's like, no, they actually made their chronotype an advantage, and that's why they're successful.
Also, focus as well too is a big one. If everybody's asleep and that's the best time for you to focus, then you're probably going to get more work done. And
Zero noise.
Be more productive.
Yeah.
So I like getting up early and doing stuff in the morning, particularly getting to the office here when no one's in here, and just there's just not the noise of the day. There's not like
you're 3 hours into your day by the time someone rocks up.
Yeah, and I like that, but from a focus standpoint, it's probably not the most healthy thing to get up.
What time do you go to bed?
9, but I always wake up in the middle of REM sleep.
Oh, really?
Because I wake up dreaming, or I wake up from a dream. So that means you're in the middle of REM. So that means I'm
probably could do it a little bit longer.
Yeah,
but you'd only need maximum like 45 minutes longer.
Yeah. You can optimize it. That's what I'm working towards, is to be able to get a good sleep schedule.
Yeah, but I mean as well, like if you're like I had this realization that because I would spend a lot of time like I would like procrastinate going to bed, and it's basically like it's this thing where like you sleep procrastination where you don't go to bed because like that's the only time that you have to yourself. So if you go to sleep, you end up having like no time to yourself. I kind of like read about that like idea and was like, okay, this is definitely me because I stay up doing nothing for the sake of staying up. So I was like, okay, if I go to sleep earlier and wake up earlier, I'm going to have more time in the morning for myself, more energy for that time as well. And then it's going to get to the end of the day. And at a time where I'm not working, I'm not doing anything productive, but I'm also not like relaxing or actually having time for myself because I'm staring at screens and I'm still, you know, a level of stress. Stimulating. Like if instead of that, I go to bed then it's like all that time, like, it's not wasted, but it's like, it's not making me feel better or getting any work done. So the two things that I could probably use time for, not doing either. And by going to bed, like I used to go to bed at like 9:30. Now it's like 8:30. And like that change means that I have more energy in the morning. And what actually happens is I'm so much more present in the morning coaching. Mm-hmm. And then if I have a break in the morning, I get work done in that break. So then when it comes to the afternoon and I've trained and I go home, I don't really have to do much because I've done my stuff.
Yeah. Inevitably, sometimes you have to do stuff in the afternoon, but it's much better to knock off for the day. Still, we probably work a 10, 12-hour day most days.
Yeah.
And then, but much better to knock off and know that you can actually wind down. And then in the morning when you're more focused, when you've rested, you can get some coffee in and
some work. Yeah. Do some work and you're aware and you can switch on. Whereas because of the nature of our job, we're typically busiest in terms of face-to-face in the morning. So if we're leaving all our work to do in the afternoon and we're like, we don't have the energy in the afternoon, we're just not going to get it done.
Well, it's inevitably focus. Yeah. You know, what do they say? The human brain has like 6 hours max a day of
pure switch on.
Something like that. And
plus or minus for people.
Yeah. And I think, well, maybe not most people, but some people think that probably our job might not be the most strenuous from a cognitive standpoint, but it's focus. So the more time...
Yeah, you still got to have hours of conversations.
Switch from conversation straight into watching what someone's doing with a technique.
Yeah. Do both at once.
Yeah, do both at once.
And as you mentioned as well, like being a different version of you for each person.
Yeah. I know, like, that's why I've changed my schedule to have my Fridays to be a predominantly administration day, programming, content, whatever it might be, marketing. And I know that I was just like, oh, cool, I've got 3-4 hours in the afternoon after doing 8-9 hours of PT. And I was just like, oh, I can't focus now because I've done a normal day's work of focus. And then I'm trying to do then a half a day's work of focus.
I did a similar thing, yeah.
And then you don't end up doing, and you can probably put some tasks in there that are
low cognitively dependent.
Yeah, but then there's other times where you're trying to be creative, you're trying to come up with strategies, you're trying to write like me writing programs most of the time, I can't do it in the afternoon because I don't do my best work, and I know I'll write a shit program. But if I do it in the first thing in the morning, I know I have better cognitive function. I'll write a better program and I'll do my job better.
Yeah. The amount of times I've written a program in the afternoon and then gone to like actually deliver the session in the morning and being like, what the fuck did I write? And just completely torn it up in the session. You're like, nah, we're not doing this at all. This is dumb.
And that's the thing, like having that focus, particularly with sometimes the hours that we might pull, you do 10, 12 hours on a day, or you do a half day and you've still done 10 hours.
Yeah. And you switched on for that entire time.
Yeah, that's the thing. So
I found that I would like do morning sessions, do a bit of work in breaks. Like I'd input breaks so I could do a bit of work. Then, like have my lunch, do a couple more sessions, and then I go and train. And then I was like, I've got some work, but I'll do it when I get home because then I can, just set up, I can have a little something to eat, blah, blah, blah. And I'd get in the car and drive home. By the time I got home, I was so switched off that I would walk inside of it. There's no way I'm getting anything done. It's just... And it just comes from like, but then I was like, oh, actually, I'm going to stay and do that work before I train. So I was using training as a reward for the work that I was doing. And that actually, I was getting more done. I was more productive.
I was actually talking to Dave about it the other day, and he was saying, what was he calling it? Like action energy or something along the lines. I've noticed that quite a lot recently where I go through the day and, I've done 8-10 hours or whatever, and then I know I have to do some stuff after. But I get to the time where I think it's two things. It's expending a bit of energy and then probably clearing the mind, but then also having a bit of time for myself. I'll go train and then I'll go into the session probably not motivated to do any more work for the rest of the day. I'll train and then I'm like, oh, cool, I can do another hour or whatever it might be.
Crazy how you can walk out of it and be like, oh.
Yeah, and just, change your environment, change your focus, and do something good for yourself as well, because what we do for our job, but also everybody else's job as well. You're doing work, if you work for someone else, you're doing work for someone else. So that's for someone else. Having a bit of time. If you've got a busy life, you've got kids, you've got partner, XYZ, whatever it might be, you inevitably end up doing a lot of things for yourself. And then having that focus time, I went back through and just reiterated the importance of my training and my schedule and my schedule in general, and then I feel better about doing the other work that I'm doing, because now I'm like, oh, I've got the things in there for me.
Yeah.
And that makes a big difference.
It's also signaling, like, it's crazy how, like, we won't even notice, but like how much our brain will like start to program based off of, like, if we do that, like, if, for instance, like if I always up until I became a PT, or even like for as a little bit when I did become a PT, is like when I would drive home, when I would get in the car and drive home, that was a signal of we're done. That's work done. There's nothing else to do. Like, especially like when you're doing a night session, like if I'm doing night sessions, when I drive home, it's like get in the car, turn some music on, just relax, like vibe into it, get home. I'm switched off by the time I get there. It's like, it's a signal, because when I get in the car, my brain's going, oh, we've done our bit. Don't need to do anything else now. We'll go home and relax. And that's because prior to being a PT, I never had a job where I would take work home with me.
Yeah.
As soon as I got home, it was done. And then now that I'm not working evenings anymore, what I would find is getting in the car and driving home is a signal that I'm done. So I get home and I'm just like, ugh, like, and obviously there's other factors that impact that, but I have noticed that getting home is like or getting in the car and driving home is a signal of we're done with work. And even that, because I moved place, I moved into Jamie's place. Prior, whenever I was at Jamie's, I never did work. It was always a place of relaxation, paying attention to my partner, like that kind of thing. Now that I live there, it's like now it has to be a place of work sometimes, and that's a little bit of like getting around that. So.
Yeah, it's funny, hey, how the human brain works. What do they call it? It's the habit loop.
Yeah.
The cue, the craving, the reward, the response. Yeah. So you get into the car. Well, it's a cue. There's a cue. If you get in the car, there's a craving of like chilling out. Yeah. There's a reward of chilling out, and there is a response of feeling the way that you felt.
Feeling like, exhausted, me like I'm done.
Yeah. Makes a big difference. Let's go back to some of the more training related things in terms of what you changed your mind about. You've got Olympic /powerlifting. What do we got? Because I like a little bit of Olympic lifting, and I've done my bit in powerlifting, although.
Yeah.
What have you changed your mind about, mate?
I think I'm constantly changing my mind. I think specifically to their Olympic lifting was, look, as a less educated individual in the industry, I'd kind of think what's the point behind that? Like, what is probably a lack of understanding of the intended outcome, or just a lack of understanding of how an intended outcome works, and better understanding, how to get a hypertrophic response, how to, what this exercise's goal is to do. And sort of like going from a point where, it's like why do you need to have a big, strong, back squat? Like, what can that help? It's like, oh, actually that's
the meaning of life.
It's the meaning of life. It is a really good indication of lower body strength and stability and an ability to control what your body's doing whilst under load and under stress. Probably a huge amount of discipline into it. To see, and this is, I'm going to praise you a little bit here, but to see the ability of someone like yourself to put 100 and something, whatever kilos on your back and start to go down into a squat and just keep going down and down and down. I compare it to kind of like in a way, like running, because at any given time you could you don't need to be running. You could just stop. any given time, you don't need to go that deep on a squat. Like with what is described as a squat these days.
Yeah.
Even when you went to do your powerlifting comp, like you were like, I'm going ass to grass.
And people are like, why are you doing that?
Why are you doing that? Like, why would you? But you said that to me, and I was like, oh, I get it, because that's how you squat.
That's how I squat. Yeah.
So I think what I started to understand was, and this is a while ago, so I don't like, this is also uneducated, Robbie, but I started to understand like how that, or like an Olympic lift, like what that is, what you're training there is not big muscle or like, look good with shirt off. It is an ability to perform a movement and have the control in your body to be able to do that movement and the level of discipline that goes into it. And it's also like, I think getting the idea that everything is so skill based, like every movement we do in the gym is a skill. Some of them require is a less demanding skill than others.
Human movement, coordination, human movement, where we're always dealing with the way that I conceptualize it, the way that I think about it, and I explain to people, playing a guitar is human movement. It is. Like, you're moving a human skeleton while it's not.
Muscles are acting on bones, or moving bones.
And there's the nervous system involved, there's coordination, there's a lot of stuff going on in your brain. Playing a sport is a skill. Boxing is a skill. Weightlifting is a skill. Running is a skill. Swimming is a skill. Riding a bike is a skill. They're all skills. And I think, when it comes to things like, for me with squatting and powerlifting and weightlifting, or squat and the weightlifting, definitely like a lot of skill. And I think there's just something about it. I think of it in terms of like a martial art or something like that. Like, and also like everything is irrelevant and nothing you don't need to do anything. But that's also the reason why we should do things, because they're cool.
Yeah.
Like I think, if you look at a barbell back squat the way that I do it, it's an inefficient use of time for XYZ reasons. But it's also really fucking cool.
Fun.
Like, I love it, and I know that
it's impressive.
It's not the only reason I do it, but I know that when people see me squat, they're like, oh, fuck, that's mad.
It's a cool squat.
It's mad,
No one's ever, but then as well, like, the people that are like, you only need to go to 90 degrees, like the range of motion people. And it's like, again, it's an inherent bias thing. Like, if they could squat ass to grass, they wouldn't be telling people to squat to 90 degrees.
They wouldn't.
They're looking for a reason to give them, I can't think of the word. I haven't been great with words today. They're looking for justify. They're looking for a reason to justify their like inadequacies. Their feeling of like, I can't do that, therefore it is wrong.
Yeah. And that's the thing. And then it also comes back to, we talked, about sort of hard work and persistence and, volume and negates luck. It's like, there's that element of just like doing shit because it's hard. Like I've done so many things from a training perspective that, on paper, completely unnecessary, but I got a lot from them just because they're fucking hard. Like one of the, I did
farmer carries.
They
get trashed online. It's like, why would you do a loaded carry, blah, blah, blah? Because it's hard.
Yeah.
You pick something heavy up and walk for a distance with it. It's not easy. You don't have to do it.
I was talking to Matt Wall about it the other day. He's like, I just want to see, like, ask him, like, where do you want to see the industry go? And he's like, it just should be a prerequisite that people can pick heavy stuff up and move it and be able to sprint. From just the general capabilities as a human being, okay, yes, if you never pick something up heavy and sprint and do those things, you're still probably going to be able to do it. But also, why not do it in that time if it's fun for you? And then there's like just the hard work element of it, like we touched on that, and just doing shit that's hard. And I think I said that earlier, but one thing that I was going to say is, like, I've done so many things that are just unnecessarily hard for the sake of doing it for the hard.
Yeah.
I went to do 100 pull-ups and 100 push-ups every single day for 100 days.
Yeah.
Just because it was like, I don't know anybody that's done it.
Not the best idea, but...
No, but also I got really fucking good at pull-ups in that time. I got up to doing all 100 reps with 27.5 kilos. I could bang out sets of 20 like nobody's business.
That's mental.
And I could do whatever grip I could do. And I was just like, I don't know, it's just an endeavor. I'm going to spend some time anyway. I'm going to be here. I might as well do something that's kind of cool. It's completely unnecessary, but so is every single thing.
Everything's unnecessary.
You can go to those people that, carrying about the optimal. Your sport bodybuilding is completely unnecessary.
Yeah.
Standing on stage
flexing in board shorts
with a fake tan on is questionable if
at
you
best.
put it into the context that some people look at it in. But it's like, also that is really, really cool.
Yeah.
So
that's something I've changed my mind about.
And that's the thing as well too. Like I appreciate it for what it is. I don't ever want to do it. I think there's things with it that it probably exaggerates a few negative things in people, and it's probably not the best thing for mental health at a certain point. And we see people go into it to come out of a mental health thing, and it exacerbates a mental health thing. Sweet, whatever. But also you're going to do things anyway, so you might as well have a crack at it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with like, I think as well, if you're going to do something, like it makes sense to try and do it the best you can. And
why not?
Like powerlifting, Olympic weightlifting, bodybuilding, whatever it might be, just doing hard shit really, really well is cool.
It makes you, like, I guarantee, and this is something that I like to talk to my clients about. I never push them into anything, but I want to, if I can have this, if I can impact them in a positive way, I've done my job. But it's like yes, doing the ultra marathons or the triathlons and stuff like that, it's unnecessary. I don't need to do it. It doesn't actually improve my business or my life or anything like that directly.
Yeah.
But the pursuit of doing that and the person I had to become to achieve that has had a definitive positive impact on everything. And it's like, you don't have to do it. No, but doing hard shit tends to help. It just like end of sentence. It tends to help.
And we have to do things like that because there's just not a need for it these days to live a life.
You can live a very comfortable life.
Too comfortable, and I think that's a bit of an issue with.
You can survive without having to leave your bed.
Yeah, but you can survive. You're not like thriving as cliche.
You're not living.
You're not living. You can sit there and have your life on a screen, and that's why it's necessary to do those sorts of things.
Yeah,
because
every once in a while.
Yeah, I don't know.
Something that you might fail at.
Yeah, and do a heavy, deep back squat. It's cool. Everybody will think better of you.
Run a marathon. People will probably be pretty impressed. You can just drive that route. Yeah, but I want to run it.
But that's also the reason why we need to take the piss out of things as well, too. Because on the flip side of it, none of it fucking matters, and have fun with it.
If you're going to be too serious about it, then like...
that's the thing. That's why I think there's a need to make jokes about it and
take the piss.
Take the piss, because also...
Just and it's not bullying. It's just...
No.
Letting people know that they're not as important as they think they are.
but also, like, I think if there's one thing that people should pick up about me, I'm pretty sarcastic about a lot of things. So I do take the piss a lot. But if anybody out there listening, but I think all those.
This was a serious conversation.
Yeah, it is. Ultimate strength conversation. Ultimate serious
strength conversations.
Yeah, ultimate
USSC. I don't know. Is there something? United States ship conversations.
Yeah. Okay.
USS, not just the SS.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the thing. Like any endeavor that's, I think, is any endeavor that's just like hard for hard's sake is cool, because why not? I just think that where people get confused is the context sometimes.
Yeah. Because
sometimes people can be like, not always is just a hard endeavor going to get you the goal that you want.
And you can make it too hard for yourself.
Yeah, you can make it too hard for yourself. The goal that you want from a body composition standpoint or a health standpoint as well, too.
It's not just from just fucking hard shit all the time. Train every day, 2 times a day, 3 times a day. Eat the worst, like just pure nutrients and nothing else.
Like there has to be, I've seen people think with like military training must be the healthiest training because of the military. Like, no. That's not for health. Like there's certain things that are for health, certain things that will probably go against you, just because they are probably stupidly too hard and unnecessary.
And also that's their job.
Yeah. Particularly if you want to, for a lot of people that they're not only concerned with just doing the hard thing, but if they're like wanting a body composition result out of it or whatever it might be, or, not always does it fit the certain thing that you want.
Yeah.
So for me, I like a back squat because it's fun. I also like a back squat because it'll build my quads. I know that the back squat's not going to build my quads the biggest as a hack squat would be.
We don't have a hack squat, so.
Yeah, true. But also I still wouldn't just do a hack squat because I don't enjoy doing a hack squat.
Yeah.
So I know that, but I'm not going to be like, having that knowledge. Whereas if it's like, I want to get in shape, so I need to train like a XYZ, whatever it might be.
There's also something inherently unimpressive about doing a heavy movement on a machine.
Yeah.
It's just like you could do someone could come to me with like some ridiculous like Smith machine back squat, and I'd be like,
that's the thing. Like,
cool, but he can back squat like double his body weight, so
yeah,
that's probably a little bit cooler
in space and time. I think it's the skill thing of it.
Yeah.
With that.
Probably another thing that I've changed my mind on is the use of like the level of stability in certain exercises.
Mm-hmm.
Like this exercise being like, how everyone says like, oh, this is the best exercise for this, or that's the best exercise for that. I'd see someone doing like an exercise that is like inherently unstable, and I'd be like, why would you do that? Like you're just decreasing the amount of weight that you can lift. But it's like, okay, well, actually, if we just deconstruct it a little bit. Now, not everyone, sometimes you just see people see shit on TikTok or Instagram and they go, oh, I'm going to do that at the gym. Cool. But also there sometimes is a reason for decreasing the stability that the external stability that you have, so that you can better challenge your internal stability and your ability to deal with like outside forces and stabilize yourself against them. So I think that's probably... and that's from sort of like course I'm doing at the moment. The Prescript one is definitely kind of like just understanding how to use stability as like how to like specifically challenge stability and use an exercise to be a stability challenging one. I've been using like an overhead tricep extension a lot recently, and like a high cable bicep curl, specifically with the intention of challenging people's shoulders in range lat flexion and getting them used to being up in that overhead position. Because if I'm asking them to overhead press or lat pull down or pull up, then if they can get their arms above their head quite comfortably and be stable in that position, they're probably going to get a better response for their body in that position. And it's like, yes, I could probably just get someone to like, from a bicep curl perspective, I can probably give someone a really, really stable environment and get them to bicep curl there. But like the theory is that if someone's shoulder stability, like increased shoulder stability will show up in bigger biceps because they're actually able to target their biceps better whilst doing other exercises. So it's like almost rather than saying like specifically X exercise is good for your bicep, it's saying X exercise is good for your shoulder stability, and that results in a bigger biceps because you're more stable and therefore able to move more weight.
And if you don't want big biceps, you're wrong.
Yeah, and why would you not want to get more jacked? I don't get it.
That's the theme of the show. But that all jokes aside, that's critically thinking and using the right thing in the right context. Because in some contexts, well, if you don't put context to it and don't critically think about it, then you probably should.
Yeah.
So that's more knowledge, more being open-minded with things.
Applying it in different ways.
Seeing
what works, what doesn't work.
And that's
spending time around people that know more than you. That's actually another one of the, for want of a better word, affirmations that I've been writing in my journal is be a little fish.
Yeah.
Another Malcolm Gladwell story. He just talks about how people who are the smartest person in a small school tend to struggle when they go to big smarter schools, because they go from being top in the class to being bottom in the class of a class that is still better than every other class, but specifically because they end up at the bottom, they struggle a little bit more. And something like graduates that are in the kind of like the third quarter, so like top 25%, next 25%, so the third one, so between sort of like 50 and 25, tend to actually be get more papers published than the people in the quarter above them, because they're just like a lot more comfortable with being like not performing as well. So is this kind of like, I actually read that specific like anecdote the week before I started at Fitness Playground, and he says like it's like being the biggest fish in a little pond to being a little fish in a big pond. And when I was coming to Fitness Playground, I came from being like probably the most knowledgeable person in the space that I worked in to being probably the least knowledgeable or one of the lowest knowledgeable people in the space that I was working in. And I was like, if you go into there expecting to be the big fish, you're going to struggle a lot. So I kept saying to myself, be a little fish, like be the little fish, be open to learning, be welcoming to other people, and be around people that know more than you. And don't be like, don't be intimidated by someone who is better or knows more than you. Like there will always be a learning opportunity. So that was something I repeated to myself. And then probably at times I've realized that I'm trying to be too much of the big fish. And so just taking that little step and being like, okay, like how can I learn from the people around me? Like, you know, for instance, there may be coaches that have like started at one playground in the last, let's say 12 months. So like, just because I may have been at this gym for longer than them, or I've done this course or done that, like that doesn't necessarily mean I am a better or more knowledgeable coach. It just means that I've been in this place for longer and done that course. So spending time with them and watching the way they train and listening to their stories, that can help me get an understanding of what they're doing. And they look at things differently to I do. And that helps give me a different perspective and something else I can apply, and I'll try that. And like early doors, it helped a lot being around people like you and Rob and Juan and Dave, people who I looked up to and could learn a lot from, Chris Mavros as well. Now, not only do I get to be that same person for newer people, but I'm still learning from you guys, and I can still take that opportunity. And just because someone's new doesn't mean I can't learn from them as well. And, you know, just a little reminder, like it's almost like a little bit of a, like, don't get too big for your boots. Like, just be a little fish. Just be welcome to other people. Don't think you know everything, because you don't. And like globally, like outside of one playground, there's a lot of really, really good coaches out there that you can learn from if you just stop and pay attention.
Yeah. And also like with that as well, you can put your, you know, if it's in terms of like being in that position where you are now to the other people coming in, you, and having learned off, you know, like you said, people like myself and Dave and Juan and Rob and Chris and the likes, Matt Duncan. But you can also then apply your spin on the combination of all that education, plus, you know, MP and Matt and Luke Lehman and, you know, Prescript and all that. And that's the value of the conversation, and also being, you know, listening as well too, because how you interpret something might be very different to how I interpret it. Doesn't mean that you're right or I'm right, or you're wrong and I'm wrong, or whatever.
You are wrong though.
Yeah, no, not on here, mate. Not on here, mate. I am right. And
I am left.
Actually, I'm left if we look at the...
But from the camera's point of view.
Ah, I see. Yeah. Just wanted you to have that realization to the audience.
Okay.
But...
yeah, it's just...
it's a different perspective, and, you know, you can come at it. And like I said, when we, you know, did your first episode, first volume, like everybody has their perspective and everybody has the reason why, you know, their story that's got them to the point where they are at this current point in time, and it's the reason why you help the people you do and do the things you do, and your perspective. And like we said, you know, I don't have a degree, you have a degree, doesn't mean that you know more or I know more or you know less or whatever it is, but you have your perspective of certain things because you did it at uni. I have my perspective, and whatever it might be, you know, that's how we get better as a whole, is all those different perspectives. And picking up little things, you know, no one is ever better than anybody else.
No, just different.
Unless someone doesn't back squat.
Or listen to this podcast.
Yeah, they should listen to this podcast. Fastest growing podcast in Surrey Hills.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, we've covered a lot there, mate. I think we've been on for nearly 2 hours.
That's what we hit last time. How's the battery on the thing going? Are they still listening?
Yeah, it should be. Yeah.
Still listening. Oh, good.
They got pretty good charge on them, the
yeah,
Rode.
they do. As long as you charge them beforehand.
Yeah. They usually last a couple of episodes.
Oh, yeah?
I think it's got like 7 hours on it.
Oh.
7 hours of charge.
Yeah.
So it usually lasts probably 3 episodes.
If you were Joe Rogan, it would be 1 episode.
He doesn't do 7 hours.
Nah, but he does do long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get there, mate. We'll get there.
One day.
We're at number 22.
22. Well done.
Yeah.
You're officially like early 20s. Like if you were a person, if this podcast was a person, your brain would be almost fully developed by now.
Yeah. My brain's not fully developed.
Almost.
Almost.
Well done.
That's what we're trying to create here, a little bit of a brain trust.
Yeah.
Getting all the
the
big
knowledge.
big dogs on.
Yeah.
All the monotone.
Good consistency. Very impressed. You've been pumping them out. Like
Thank you, man.
When I look at, I kind of took my attention away from them for a hot minute, and I looked back, and there was like 4 more, and I was like, Jesus, like.
Well, how did you take your attention away from it?
I don't know. Maybe I have ADHD.
That's okay, mate. I am surprised that anybody listens, and I am appreciative of anybody who does listen. And it's good fun.
Yeah.
Giving it my best crack. I'm like, well, why not?
I mean, realistically, we have these conversations sat at the cafe, so we might as well record them.
It's a big reason why I did it. We chatted about doing something similar, and I think there's good conversations all around. We are lucky to have pretty decent people around us that again are all trying to get better
and do different things as well.
That's the thing.
Access to so many different people that do so many things so differently.
Yeah. And that's what I want from it as well too, man. Like, I want it to be a collaboration and beneficial for all involved. So obviously I will be on a lot because it's my show, but I want it to be, if there's someone in my audience that would be so much better suited to working with you or whoever I'm sitting across from, go work with that person.
Go to get to know that person and learn from them.
That's it, because they might be sitting there being like, oh, I follow all these people on social media. I follow Matt, kind of like what he's about, but just, and then they listen to a podcast with you and they're like, oh, fuck, it was Robi that I wanted to work with. Excellent. That's perfect.
Oh, good.
And vice versa as well too. If there's someone in your audience that would be better for me, blah, blah, blah. Like,
probably got a few.
But I've probably definitely, if there's anybody who wants to get into triathletes or triathlons or whatever it might be, then here's your boy.
Thank you. If there's anyone that wants like really good back squat, also a bit of like, you've been doing a bit of back rehab. I don't know, have you always done a bit of back rehab? Because you're definitely doing it with a few people recently.
Yeah, mate, I've got some skills.
Yeah, I know you got skills. Yeah. That's why I like, good bloke to work with.
Yeah. I've been working with people from a back rehab standpoint for a long time. Yeah, for as long as I've been doing it.
Yeah,
pretty much.
I mean, if you can get someone to deadlift without pain, it's a pretty good indication and they can deadlift their body weight without pain. Pretty good indication their back's doing all right.
Yeah, that was pretty. Did you see what we did yesterday
with Sam?
Yeah,
that was really impressive. Yeah, because he didn't look great on 65. He looked better on 125 kilos or 123 kilos than he did on the 63.
Yeah, we got some. I got some skills there with that.
It's good. Yeah.
But man, like honestly, I've been injured so much myself. Like
you just learn how to
so much more than. Not more than any person alive, but fucking more than your average person. And I just don't want to stop. So
you just got to learn. Like I think it's probably, and like correct me if I'm wrong, but it's probably to do with like why we do what we do.
Yeah.
Like, I 100%, there's no word of a lie. I would not be where I am right now if I had not sat in a physio's office at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday, just after a knee reconstruction, with a physio who was wearing a polo shirt and tracksuit pants, and we were watching the NBA on the TV. Because I was like, this is a pretty good gig. Like, I can't work in an office, but I could do this.
Yeah.
And then that started me down the path to being here now. And it was all like, it was being injured that was like, hey, actually, like, I'm grateful for the people that have helped me out of this. I would love to have some sort of an impact on people as well.
Yeah.
The same sort of impact.
And that's it for me, man. Like, I've actually got a podcast coming out that I'm going to be on as a guest. Cool. Yeah.
Whose podcast? Are you allowed to say?
Yeah, Zoe. This is going to be out. This one will be out way after the other one. So if you're listening and you want to go listen to me be interviewed and grilled, go to, I think it's called Actionable Alignment Podcast with Zoe Jet Blackley.
So she was on this one.
Yeah, she was on here, and she's going to be having me on hers on Thursday coming. And I like the big why behind what I do is just helping people in a position that I once was, and being able to move them along a lot faster is what I do, which is why that's what I'm passionate about when it comes to, first and foremost, body composition and confidence and strength. That's me. I want to help people that struggled with that a little bit. Open to actually changing. If you don't want to change, I do want to help you, but you've got to be open to changing. Yeah. But that's a big thing. And then same thing with the injuries as well too. It's not. I do have a really good ability to do that, and I don't want to toot my own horn, but I can get people out of pain pretty quickly.
It works.
Yeah, like Cos could barely bend over.
Really good example. Yeah,
Cos could barely bend over and put her shoes on in December, and now she's RDLing fucking 90 for a 10.
Pretty cool when you see that result as well.
Yeah, and that's from me being injured a lot because I continue to get better and better at it, but I've been injured a lot. Like after I hurt my back, I back squatted like in the powerlifting comp, and that was honestly the most painful thing I've ever experienced and the worst injury. Felt like at the time the most damaging injury I've ever had. 2 days later, I squatted 130 for 5 with no pain. And I've had it before where I fixed some stuff pretty quick for myself, and people are like, "Oh, mustn't have been that bad." And I was like,
No, it's pretty bad.
It was really fucking painful.
Yeah.
I've had, like in terms of like, I've had fucking 5 or 6 concussions. I've broken my arm. I've cracked my sternum. I've torn my AC joint. I'm pretty sure I torn my MCL to a certain extent. Like, been in car accidents. I've had a lot of pain and just dislocated subluxed my shoulder more times than I can imagine. I've dislocated a rib in my sleep.
Oh, nice. Pretty rough sleeper. Or was that just Mel throwing hands?
No, that was a few years ago. What else have I done? I've broken my nose. I've motorbike accidents. Like, I've had a lot of pain in my life.
Yeah. And it's not fun.
No, and I have, many back injuries and fix stuff pretty quick. And yeah, that's kind of what I do. I can do it pretty quick.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. You, as you said, like, it's what, like, our experience is kind of like that defines what we almost become like an expert in, because you've done it, you've gone through that journey and you understand it, and then you learn more about that journey and you find other people who've gone through similar journeys and figure out how they did it.
Yeah.
And then you start practicing it, you do it with a couple of people, and they get some results and some other people don't get results. So then you figure out what you did wrong and you find a way, and then all of a sudden you've done quite a few thousand hours on improving someone's pain, and you're like, well, sweet, I kind of know what I'm doing.
Yeah. A lot of it actually come from when I started with doing PT. I remember, at home I did a lot of stuff, and then kind of like you were saying, the big fish in the little pond, that was kind of me, and then that's why I moved to Sydney, to be the little fish in the big pond. And I kind of didn't realise that I knew as much as I knew comparative to other people from just reading a lot anyway and doing a lot. But yeah, that when, a lot of times I'd get a lead and they'd be like, "Oh, this person's got this injury, can you work with this?" And I was like, "Oh, well, I haven't kind of worked with that before, but I've worked with this and this. This person's got
understand the basics.
Yeah, this person's got a back injury. Have you ever worked with this?" And I was like, "Oh, no, but I'll give it a shot." And then another one.
And then you look at them and you're like, "Oh, like, it's not a back injury. It's just they have no core stability."
Yeah. But the biggest thing is the signals of pain, and then we do our thing to mitigate the signal of pain, and then the body doesn't feel like it's in a stressful situation, and then it'll probably mitigate the pain, and then therefore we can do the things that we want.
Crazy how many people's back pain I've like not fixed, but like improved in a day just by doing some breathing.
Yeah.
Is it breathing? And like, actually when someone comes in, sore back, sitting at a desk all day,
Just
that kind of thing.
pain.
Just back pain. I'll go like breathing, and then I'll go like a Zercher squat, heel elevated Zercher squat, and just get them to like breathe in all the way down and then exhale all the way up. Like, "Oh, you fixed my back." No, I didn't.
You fixed your back.
You fixed your back. You just relaxed.
Yeah. Just relax, guys.
Got some weight to push you back in space, and look at you now.
Look at that. Okay, we might pull it up there, mate.
No Benji moment.
We'll keep the people waiting. Yeah.
Keep waiting.
Oh, yeah. We'll get Benji on.
That again, it would be crazy.
That's when the podcast will have made it.
It's made it. Yeah. Random fact though, this just the rugby league just brought this up. So obviously, South Sydney just sacked their coach and promoted Ben Hornby, who was the assistant, to be the first grade coach.
Yeah.
Ben Hornby, former Dragons halfback and captain, premiership winning captain. Great player. I reckon he'll be a good coach. Last night he lost in his coaching debut. He lost 42-12 against Penrith. His playing debut for St George Illawarra was against Penrith, and he lost 42-12.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah, right.
That's when you start to think maybe we are in a simulation.
We absolutely are in a simulation.
Unplug me from the Matrix.
Yeah. We are absolutely in a simulation.
Yeah.
I get around that conspiracy theory or that theory.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was true.
Why not?
Everything's pointless, so it wouldn't. It's just a video game.
That's it.
Or maybe it's actually like that the movie The Truman Show where
Yeah.
he plays the guy that's in a TV show and everything's fake. Maybe I'm Truman and you're just pretending to be, and you're asking these questions so that there's a whole level of conspiracy. Is this a conspiracy theory podcast now?
Well, mate, we've made it past 20 and,
At this point, we either have to...
I'm a 30-something-year-old male with a podcast. So
you either have to release alcohol or get really racist.
Yeah, we'll go the alcohol.
Matt Walsh whiskey coming to your local liquor store soon.
Yeah.
You can't mix it with Coke.
No, fuck no. Do you know the rapper Yellow Wolf?
No.
I think I've sent you some stuff before. I got to show you some of his stuff. It's like the culmination of all the things that I like in music. He's probably not. He's one of my favorite rappers, but he's from Alabama. He is
Alabama.
Yeah,
Crimson Tide,
like a redneck.
Yeah,
but raps like mad. Like he was on.
He's from the streets.
Yeah. He's got some songs with Eminem.
Oh yeah. I know when you're talking about.
Anyway, he does like a bit of like rock, country, rap.
I think I know the one you're talking about.
Anyway, he has a whiskey called Creek Water, and I really want to get some.
Creek Water?
Yeah, it's great.
That's an interesting one. Yeah.
Yellow Wolf.
Yella?
Yeah.
Like Yella?
Yeah, just YELA.
Oh, yeah, I see. Yeah, I think you've sent him to.
He...
Interesting. Catfish Billy.
Yeah, goes hard.
Alrighty.
Right, I think we're fading there, mate.
Yeah, energy's a little bit dropped. It is 4:20 on a Friday afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for listening if you got that far, guys.
Thank you.
We will catch you on the next one.
Yeah, see you soon, hopefully, for round 4.
Betting even more.
Betting even... What?
Do you not know?